Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to present my presentation, and this presentation was about STEM. What is the STEM? Before starting my presentation, I am going to introduce myself. Myself is Mehdi Abbas Oonwala, and I have completed my MBA in marketing from the Muhammad Ali Jinnah University, and after that I have completed my MPhil degree from ZABIS in project management. I am an educationist and an entrepreneur from the last 12 years and serving the underprivileged areas of society for the betterment of the education. So I am very closely observing the difference between the traditional education and the STEM education. Let's if we look into and dig into a deeper concept of STEM. The STEM is basically about education which create a workforce for the future which know how to use the tools and skills which is necessary for their field so they can go far beyond what everyone is doing. This is the actual definition of STEM. In this presentation, we are going to cover the topics of regarding this STEM. Number one is how STEM is flexible and what are the flexibilities of STEM. Number two, if we adopt the STEM education, what will be the societal impact we are have to face or we are going to look around the change by adopting the STEM education. And the number third, not the least, is the future opportunities if we adopt the STEM education in our curriculum. Let's have an overview of STEM education. Basically, STEM is an acronym which we adopted in 2000, and this acronym firstly was not the STEM, it was the SMAT, SMET, SMAT. This acronym is basically, as the meaning is S for science, T for technology, E for engineering, and M for mathematics. And there is no doubt that science and technology have a very impactful role played in our society. And this 21st century is an era of technological era. Before the 21st century, there was an industrial era, and there was an iron age, and there was an stone age, and there was a copper age. But the 21st century is all about the technological advancement, and the future is all about the AI advancement or artificial intelligence. So we have to come up with the idea. So we have to come up with an extraordinary idea to align our student with the technology so that they can achieve whenever they enter into a practical life so they are familiar with the education standard what we have teaching, and this can be only be achieved by the education of STEM education. In the recent year, we have seen there is a movement of arising of the STEM education for various aspects. And when look into the STEM education, there is a science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. This education movement was started and got the popularity in around early 20s, which is 2000 and 2001. And this education standard can be adopted firstly by the US and further it can be adopted by the different countries. And I already discussed the acronym of this STEM, and but this idea was popularized by 2001, and because of the arrangement of the word. The firstly, the STEM word was not arranged in this order; it was arranged in SMET, SMAT, and after the Dr. Ramley in 2001, they rearranged the term as an STEM, and that STEM word got the widespread acceptance in all around the world, like China, Korea, France, and Taiwan. These all are the countries which involved into the education of STEM. What about the spending as per the gross domestic product of different countries? And it shows how country is serious about their workforce and how they are serious about their education standard. So we have in comparison between America from the Europe side and India and Pakistan from the Asian side, and we have seen a difference that India is about spending 5 to 6% regarding the education, but Pakistan is spending around 2 to 3% on education, and America is spending around 14% of their budget on the education, so that their workforce or the future workforce got the exact education what they are planning to do, and the country prosperity directly or indirectly depend on the education. If you have a workforce who know how to play with the tools, what are the skills for having the prosperity, the education plays an important role. If you look into the STEM trend the world is following, they are engaging their child on an early stage with this kind of education. STEM is categorized from the beginning level to the graduate level. So they are already in a process for a eagerly learning of a practical learning. Science and maths is always a part of our education system. But this traditional education system has no practical value for the student. While you were teaching the trigonometry and while you were teaching the formulas of the mathematics, the children cannot get practically connected with them. But when you involve the STEM education, then children got to know how the trigonometry is working, how the coding is working, how the coding is involved in day-to-day roboting, and like they have in STEM education, we have in great we have in many programs like robotic programs, we have pro program, we have a moon missions program for us on a smaller scale where the children get involved and learn, and especially they are using the mathematics for idealizing the imaginary values with the help of the trigonometry situation, by using the geometrical shapes, by using the tangent, by using their theorems. Practically they are involving in learning what they are getting from this education. If we talk about the traditional education, what we are giving to our children and what the STEM education is doing with our children. America do a R&D, research and development on their education, and they want to eliminate the traditional method of education, and they want to be a part of practical education. STEM is an education which helps you to integrate all your subjects under one roof, where the student can play with the science, where the student can connect the science with the technology, where the student what he is learning in engineering and what they are learning in mathematics, they all are integrated and connected, and the student get the practical knowledge which cannot be easily available in the traditional education, because in traditional education there is no integration. Every subject has its own limitation and has its own boundary, and it cannot be connected, and it cannot be connected with one another. You cannot say that there is an integration and we can learn very easily. It is difficult to understand the situation. It is to understand the situation. For understanding the situation, you have to understand why STEM is important for our society. STEM education is actually emphasizing the student to ask the question, to investigate the question, to analyze the question, and find out the answers what are the question they have got, because he is in a practical phase of learning. STEM education has been put down on our elementary stage, and then we have taken this STEM education to the middle stage, and after the middle stage, the STEM education have a major role played in a higher school education. And because of this scenario, when you are when you are entering your child, when you are giving them an early education, when you are giving them early education with the STEM education, and this STEM education, when he got to the graduation level, he will be very familiar with the practical understanding. What is the history of STEM? Basically, STEM is a type of education curriculum which was be introduced in the early 20s and got its widespread recognition in 2001 or 2 by the National Science Foundation. NSF is the one is responsible, who was the responsible for the introduction of the STEM education. This education has been widespread to the different countries of the world, and academics of different areas of universities and academics of different areas of colleges, they emphasize for the prosperity knowledge, for the incentive job, and this prosperity only can be achieved when you work on your science and technology and continue the innovation to address the societal problem. Your societal problem can only be achieved if you have a skilled workforce. Your societal problem of economical crisis can only be achieved when you have a skilled workforce who know how to play with the tool, who know how to be practical. Because when you are working in a practical scenarios at a very early stage, and when it comes to the actual practical life, you have not a very different world to play. You have a familiar world to play. You have a familiar problem because you are already playing with the practical knowledge. Before I am going to complete my whole presentation. I want to say one thing, that there is a very famous quote regarding the practical knowledge, that tell me something and I forgot. If you tell me something, there is a communication barrier. 80% of the communication has been lost when I am just using my one sense of listening, and that one sense of listening is my solely the ear. When I'm using my two sense of when I am using the two senses for understanding what you are saying, 80% of the knowledge can be abolished within the 20 to 30 minutes. But if you teach me, I remember. If you tell me, I forgot. If you teach me, while you are teaching me, I am using my two or more than two senses to understand what you are saying. But if you are involved me in a practical knowledge, so I can earn what you are trying to understand, giving me understanding regarding a problem. And that understanding of a problem can be lasting for so long because I was practically involved in that situation. Thank you from my side. All is this for you. I hope we will meet again, inshallah.